Meteorologist Casey Cloud in the Weather Center on this Wednesday evening, tracking a flash flood warning right now in play for areas around Valdosta, as we are seeing some tropical moisture here in the overall meteorological pattern, associated with Raphael, which is way down to the south, not going to have direct impacts on our area or Florida, really, for that matter, not getting into the core of that. I mean, they are kind of sort of getting the very fringe direct impacts toward the Florida Keys, but that's simply about the extent of that there. But right now, you see, we do have this warning in play till about 11:30 or so for portions of Brooks and Lowndes counties. At 8:24, Doppler radar indicated heavy rain across the warned area and flash flooding either ongoing or expected to begin shortly. So we're talking about Valdosta, Lake Park, Hahira, I-75 at exit 16, Moody Air Force Base, Rimerton, Dasher, Kinderloo, Valdosta Airport, I-75 at exit 22, I-75 at exit 11, Clyattville, Blue Springs, I-75 at exit 29, Twin Lakes, I-75 at exit 5, Barrett as well under this. So just remember, turn around, don't drown when encountering flooded road. And we had some fatalities in Missouri from some flooding here earlier in the week. And you got to keep in mind that most flood deaths do occur in vehicles. It is nighttime, so that means, the Weather Service reiterates here at Tallahassee office that it's harder to recognize the dangers of flooding here. So you got to be really careful as we're looking at things, as we're tracking them right now, and especially Lowndes County. I know you guys were hit so hard by the hurricane there as we were looking at things, as we were tracking things there, going back in the timeline. But it's a situation here as we're monitoring this, we're just, still dealing with that aftermath. I know Helene was just so devastating for Valdosta there as we're looking at this. So you just gotta kind of keep that in mind. I appreciate everybody tuning in here tonight on the different platforms of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, as we're trying to give you the latest information here. Just making sure we're keeping you guys safe. Let me go ahead and put on another look at things. This is another Doppler perspective. I know, looking at 1 hour rainfall totals in that red, that's about 2 inches, give or take, in the last hour. But then when you add it all up, the event total, we're sitting at over 4 inches in some of those whitest areas here on the maps. That's something to kind of keep in mind. I know around Berlin, some areas closer to 5 inches. So you got to keep that in mind there as well. So again, just monitoring this situation here very carefully. I know we didn't have a formal update yesterday. We'll have one tomorrow night. Of course, we'll be looking at that Veterans Day forecast. That's why we're still kind of using that flag logo here right now, since we didn't have to go into alert mode or anything. This isn't enough to go into alert mode. So we're just keeping that. That's what we use, around Veterans Day if we're not in alert mode, as we're just continuing to give you the latest here. That's on I-75 there around Valdosta, where we're seeing some flooding that's ongoing right now. And you just got to be really careful, because this has been kind of training on in there over the last little bit. There are flood watches in play for portions of our area. As I loop this around, you see it really started to sit over the city around 8 o'clock, give or take. And this hadn't, really relented. If anything, I think the rain rates in Valdosta proper downtown have gotten worse. So we've got to be really careful here. This could, continue to worsen here as maybe folks are leaving their businesses for the night, or getting home for the night, something of that sort. We have occasional strikes of lightning in here. I was noticing on some other products as well, but this is really about this heavy rain training on in. There is a little bit of very weak rotation. We did mention on Facebook and Twitter/X yesterday that there was a small chance of some very brief tornadoes. So it's not completely out of the question that could happen. As I loop this, it has strengthened a little around Valdosta. Granted, I don't think it's enough for a warning right now, any of that. But, gusts to 40 miles an hour would be a possibility in here. So got to bear that in mind. Got to keep that in mind as we're looking at things here. We've seen the rain around Georgia today in a lot of spots, but it's a situation where you get in a more populated area and it really trains on in that really causes a problem, and that's why we had that first flash flood warning issued here for our covered area. We may have more. I mean, looking here though, you see some of these other areas of the heaviest rain and the lesser populated areas. I see, one of those areas of concentrated action up there on Bridget and Broxton. I mean, that's, several inches of rain up there. They're not, in the most populated zone, and they're not getting it as heavy right now. And in northern Brooks County, southern parts of Colquitt County, they're not getting it as heavy right now either. But nasty situation. This is one of the more populated areas in South Georgia. And it's getting some of the heaviest rain right now, and it's gotten quite a bit in the last little bit. So we could even get this to go to a considerable flash flood threat if this rain continues to fall. I know we had Helene hit, and that caused a lot of damage from the wind. But then it's been kind of dry lately, so it'll maybe take a little bit more to cause more problems. But eventually it can be problematic here, folks. So you got to be keeping that in mind. Remember to turn around, don't drown here as you're looking. This is South Georgia, Lowndes County, part of our 62 counties, and Brooks County there as well. So just got to be very mindful of what is going on here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation. We're in Bradford County, but we're always giving latest for the 62 counties. They thought we'd pop in here for a little bit. With this situation that could escalate, it could get to a considerable flash flood threat. Probably won't go to a flash flood emergency, I wouldn't think. But, the way this is kind of turning in on them, depending on the reports we get from, storm spotters and the like, this could get to a considerable flash flood threat for Valdosta. So we don't have that yet, but it can still be dangerous at night. Really, it can still be life-threatening. So you got to be really careful. You got to be really cautious here. Let me go ahead and look at some of our other views. I know as we go to the west, there's a flash flood warning west of our area there for parts of Bay and Washington counties. As we're tracking things, as we're giving you guys the very latest, that's not, again, part of our 62 counties, but it's just the overall moisture influence here. We have that moisture, loosely associated with Raphael, Hurricane Raphael. And this is the overall pattern. I know it's not directly connected like some moisture is toward the Florida Keys, but just the overall pattern kind of letting that come on in here. And then as you see here toward the Keys, they are getting that moisture directly associated, but they're not getting to the core of the storm. The core, went over Cuba earlier today as a major hurricane, causing big problems. But as you look toward the Keys, that's about the extent of where we'll get a direct, ban from this, because it's going to start getting more off toward the west here. The track, you see where it's expected to go. It was supposed to curve up north earlier on, maybe toward Louisiana or Texas. This is something that may not happen, though the models are still confused about this. They've been confused the whole time, more than I've seen in a while. I mean, it's an odd system to happen in November, but I know this latest GFS run is interesting because it's starting to send maybe a loop all the way to the north, like a complete, circle maybe in the Gulf. We'll see if that happens, but it has it getting close toward Louisiana by Sunday. That's not the official forecast, and then it kind of has it off the Florida coast, and then looping back around here, back eventually to the south. So as it weekends on off, so we'll see. Not gonna be a big deal for our area here as we're looking at things. As we're tracking the situation. And so that's good, obviously. Nothing like, Milton. It doesn't, seem for sure, or Helene. And that's great news. Or Debbie, for that matter. We'll just watch it to make sure nothing, happens out of this, at all in terms of anything too consequential. Granted, we are getting the indirect effects right now, as we just got another flash flood warning issued by the National Weather Service in Tallahassee. So let's go ahead and go to the north here and show you this. By the way, you see further north, there's a flash flood warning further up in Georgia, and some areas really hard hit by Hurricane Helene. Up there toward, looks like Twin City, Georgia, Emanuel, Jefferson, and Johnson counties. But this is a new warning for Ben Hill, Berrien, Cook, Irwin, and Tift counties now in Georgia until 3 a.m. At 8:56, A Doppler had indicated heavy rain across the warned area. Flash flooding either ongoing or expected to begin shortly. Ocilla, Tipton, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit tighter and keep running this down. Nashville, Georgia, I'll get even a little bit tighter there with this. We have Fitzgerald in there, Adel, Sparks, Enigma, Race City over toward Lenox, Ty. We even have Phillipsburg in there and Vanceville. So, again, a nasty situation there right now as we've seen this rain in the last hour. The blue showing, the lighter blue, showing over an inch of rain toward that area in Valdosta. This here, the purples are showing about 2 inches, and this could be underdoing it a little bit on this product. One product kind of does it a little different than the other, but, they've had a couple inches here, maybe closer to 2.5, 3, because, I think it could be underdoing a tropical downpour action a little. About 3 inches in the last hour of Valdosta, pretty significant there in Lowndes County. So, a situation where you gotta be really careful. We'll stick with this for a few minutes at least. I want to at least get this heaviest rain out of Valdosta, because they may go considerable on this one, and I wouldn't be surprised. We had something earlier in the summer, they had a lot of flooding, going back. Of course, we had Helene as we keep reiterating how terrible that was. And this shouldn't be anything like Helene. But it's still, with those tarps on those roofs and the like, this isn't helpful. As we look toward the north, you see around Tipton, Fitzgerald, and Adel, we've had some, downpours. They're not quite as heavy with the rates right now, but enough to be a cause for concern here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking. I'm looping this around. You see some of that rain over Valdosta's, and in Valdosta's vicinity. Kind of headed up that way, so that could, make things worse along I-75 as we get throughout the evening hours here now, because of the tropical influence, not directly associated, but indirectly associated with Raphael, Hurricane Raphael, that's just north of Cuba. So, as we continue to watch this, you see it's not as heavy with the rates yet, but that could change. That warning till 3 a.m. That's a long fuse flash flood warning there in towards some of these areas as we're looking toward Ben Hill, Berry and Cook, Irwin and Tip. This one goes to 11:30 as we're looking at this. Let's go to the velocity mode. You can see some areas of weak rotation around Valdosta. We're close on the radar here. Don't see any debris. Don't have any tornado warnings. Haven't had any severe thunderstorm or tornado warnings here across the area from this, and these are just the first 2 flash flood warnings, so that's why we're in the air right now. But we have had some special weather statements for some areas of wind enhancement today. Heavy downpours have been a story in spots as well, not so much around where we're at in Star. We've had about 0.17 on the rain gauge here, so not too bad. I'll kind of give you an idea of what to expect later on, but as we look at the timeline, though, the models have still been all over the place. But you see here, some rotation, weak in nature on State Road 94. This is very weak, really. We're only seeing gate to gate of maybe 40, so don't think we have any type of tornadic activity with this, and really probably just be indicative of gusts to maybe 40 miles an hour, give or take, down toward the surface. That's, something if there's areas that are more vulnerable could be impacted, losing, power because something was already loose more than anything, or a limb comes down and falls because it was already, close to falling. Because we really haven't had too much bad weather since, the tropical acts, and so it's a situation where this could kind of take advantage of some vulnerabilities a little bit more than anything with the wind, which isn't going to be too bad. It doesn't look like, of course, the rain's a different story, and that's, while we're on the air, really, the flash flood warning scenario. So, again, just trying to give you the very latest here. I appreciate everybody tuning on in, watching on all the different platforms. Let me go ahead and give you guys an idea here of where they're at in case you're maybe new to watching my coverage. Facebook, Casey Cloud Reacts, Cloud Weather on that platform, and Twitter /X at Cloud Casey, YouTube at Cloud Weather. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. There's Twitch Cloud Weather and there's cloudweather.com. So, again, we're live on the air right now with a couple flash flood warnings, indirectly, not directly, but indirectly associated with Raphael and the overall meteorological pattern. So, again, that's what we're dealing with right now there. let's go down to the Keys because we want to talk about that a little bit while we have you. Not enough to really come on and talk to me of landfall in Florida or even close to one. It's not hurricane conditions, not even tropical storm conditions outside of parts of the Keys, really. So it's an isolated situation. But while we're on, while we have you, we need to talk about this. I mean, there's a small tornado threat down there, that could get a little bit further north, possibly. I mean, that tornado threat is possible. It could get into southwest Florida, but as we look here, I mean, some of these are rotating some, but there is more wind energy since these are directly associated with the tropical axis. And there's a tropical storm warning for Key West. So, I said a scattered pattern is a possibility here as we're looking. I mean, this is, again, very, confined here, really. As we're looking at the tropical storm warning, I didn't even go for all the Keys. I mean, as we're looking, let me kind of bring that geographic information up here to kind of just make sure you guys know exactly what's going on. I mean, the tropical storm warning is in effect for the lower and middle Keys from Key West to the west of the Channel 5 bridge there in Dry Tortugas. And that's, it here in the United States. So it's not even getting, up in the, areas there that are close toward the mainland there, that part of the Keys, as we're looking at things. So again, it's pretty confined with this because this is not headed, north. If it was headed north, it'd be different. It's a situation where, as we're tracking Raphael, it's headed off toward the northwest, and it's going to get more west as we go with this, based on the latest projections. Again, they've been very uncertain, but feel pretty good about this right now. Felt a little bit better probably yesterday because I saw that loop here in that one model now, which is it's been doing some weird stuff, some of these models, but we should still be in good shape overall. Again, just loosely associated moisture and the overall meteorological pattern here coming on up. I mean, it's not connected to Raphael directly, is what I'm saying. Unlike the Keys, that technically is, directly connected there as we look, but I mean, I'll see what I'm talking about in another mode. As we look here, you can see how this is a hurricane. You can see that, it's not hitting the U.S., but you can see part of that eye wall of the significant hurricane. And you see this banding here. That is directly, the outer fringes way of it, of Raphael. And you see the tornado threat 5% for Key West, 2% of that green there. As we're giving you guys the latest, 2% threat designated by Naples, Everglades, Flamingo, and Tavernar, I think. I may be mispronouncing that. Never been down there, but I apologize if I am. But again, I mean, that may be Tavernier, maybe, but you get the idea as we're tracking that situation. Again, the satellite, you can kind of see the moisture pattern. I mean, just the overall meteorological setup. I know they would be, not too much now, but they would be begging for moisture, in our, I'm sure, out toward California because there's some terrible wildfires out there. Let's put radar back on here. Let's put it in winter mode because we have a winter storm around Colorado and New Mexico, but then around Los Angeles, in that vicinity, there are some, very bad wildfire conditions. We've had homes destroyed there today, according to media reports, and even some injuries being reported, according to media information in the LA market as well. I mean, so not what you want to hear at all. Not what you want to hear at all there as we're tracking things. I know some officials indicating that about, the situation there with some injuries even. So not what you want to have, just very, ripe conditions for wildfires. I mean, you don't see as much on that wind mode, but I'll kind of just go over some stuff here behind the scenes. I mean, the winds are pretty strong in towards some of these areas. Extreme fire weather, extreme and life-threatening fire behavior, possible through Friday as we're looking toward Los Angeles and Ventura counties and the Santa Barbara area there, the South Coast, all mountains. Particularly dangerous, extreme risk situation where you got to be ready to take action at once. It's a Santa Ana wind is, impacting those prone areas there of LA, that's Los Angeles and Ventura counties. I mean, there's been some smoke on some imagery today, even. I'll go back 4 hours. I mean, you see some wind reports there. Road sign was down. That's not helpful here as we're looking at things. I haven't really paid attention in terms of the geography too much, in terms of exactly where some of this is, but definitely some sources at least you can see the smoke on it, pretty well. So as we kind of look, now you're not going to get it visible because we're, getting darker, but you kind of get the idea here. Just, not great. Let's look at some of these values here in terms of the dew points. I mean, look at those. Those are terribly low. It's just so dry out there. I mean, these, just indicate, I mean, we have some negative values trying to fill up here. It's just bone dry out there with extreme winds. And that is a very, very bad combination. Very significant, very serious. I mean, the only thing, going is the temperature on, extremely hot now. But 4 hours ago, I mean, getting close to 80 degrees. So, not great at all. Extreme danger, and it's going to last, that extreme danger, for wildfires through Friday. So you got to be, folks out there have to be prepared to evacuate at once, because their houses, could be in danger. Their life could be in danger. That's how significant this wildfire threat is there in that area towards Southern California. Some of the worst they maybe have ever seen in terms of these weather conditions. So, gotta be really, ready to get going there in case of evacuation. As we go ahead and get back on over here, though, switch it out of that winter mode that we were on. I know you can see our hurricane Raphael down here as we're tracking things. Raphael is a Category 2 storm at the last check. Update, 9 o'clock update, 105 mile an hour winds. There, I know they're giving some different updates because it's been visible on that radar, but that's a Category 2 hurricane. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation on that Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. So, extensive damage, is what it's near the core. A lot of that's getting away from the coast of Cuba right now. Of course, they had Cat 3 conditions, devastating conditions in parts of Cuba earlier today, though. So not what you want to hear, obviously, as you're looking towards some of these areas, as we continue to give you the very latest. So let me go ahead and just continue giving you a look at things. I know, tropics-wise, there's been some signals in the model anyway. We could have some more action to still watch this late in the season, but let's get back over to the indirect, very, indirect, but still partially because of the influence from Raphael toward our area here with these flash flood warnings in play. As we continue to give you the latest here with this overall meteorological setup, it's just important to take heed here as we're dealing with this, as we're watching this situation. We're just trying to keep you guys up to date. I mean, just always important to be mindful here of the scenario, because you just gotta really make sure you don't go on this flooded road and the like, and dark especially, because that can be life-threatening. That can definitely be life-threatening. I know, weather service has said there's even chances of some areas getting 6 to 10 inches of rain near the I-75 corridor before all is said and done. So that's significant here as we're looking, especially in south central Georgia. It's very significant. So you just got to be very mindful of this. You got to take heed here in these type of situations. And you maybe don't want to even be driving right now on some of the stretch of the road. Granted, that's probably safer than, granted, you don't hydroplane. But, it'd be a little bit higher up in a lot of cases and there's side roads. But still, this is kind of how the pattern was a little bit. I mean, you remember Helene. This is different. But there was a situation with Helene where they had rain out ahead of that, and then they had Helene itself. But here you're going to have the rain and the meteorological pattern out ahead, but you're not going to have, you know, a situation where you have the core itself come across. That's good. Very good, obviously. Again, just trying to give you the latest here, though. Just trying to keep you informed. Let me get some of the high resolution guidance on up. This is going to start here. This is underdoing at this point, I would say. But let me back it up just to see what it's showing for now. So this is, you know, supposed to be what 9 o'clock looks like here. According to the computers, though, it's a little bit different area, a little bit east, really. So let's just kind of maybe assume a little east with some of this then. You know, so maybe it goes a little more in the boxes where they're at. Let me zoom out a little bit more so you can see this better. And then you kind of watch the simulation here. It has it clearing out a little bit more in this run of things right now. As we're looking, this is 7, 8, 8 a.m. We started to see some action. You see maybe heavy downpour east of Tallahassee. 9 a.m. you start seeing some stuff around Tallahassee. That, this is out, give or take in that time frame. We've put the time change. I got to take that into account now with our Z times doing those conversions. So this would be 9 a.m. here. On the time conversion, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon, and I zoom out here, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, so maybe some redevelopment later on with some heating, maybe trying to get into play. I mean, that can lead to some issues there. East of Tallahassee, possibly, give or take. Because I'll add this up a little bit. Let's see how much rain this would be over a 6-hour period. And this simulation, at least, and it's a simulation, it's not going to be exactly right. It was already wrong to start a little, so that's a little bit of a concern. But, I mean, this is still in 7, 8 inches of rain and one little stretch of I-10 there between about, let's see, so that makes it 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. tomorrow. So we'll see. There is not getting that, and it may not happen, to be quite honest, exactly. It's not going to happen exactly like that, but it's isolated. I mean, you see Tallahassee, no rain in that period, really. Stark no rain, so, it's an odd setup here meteorologically, but that's a possibility here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things, as we're trying to give you the latest information, so just got to kind of bear that in mind. I know formally there's not a tornado risk around here. It's a general thunderstorm risk. The tornado risk in that dark green's 2%. And you see those areas, and then 5% right around Key West, Overlord, Summerland, Key. So that's where you really, have the better chance of a water spout coming on shore. And then that would be a tornado once it hit land, causing some damage potentially. So got to keep that in mind. There is some rotation potential right in there with the supercell composite, even a little up in our area too. I don't really see any STP there, but there is a little bit. That's a significant tornado parameter. Instability, you have a little more up our way. There's some gaps in between. So just continuing to give you guys the latest updates here as the situation does transpire. Let me go ahead and jump back on over to some other modes here. I know that rain around Valdosta is not really wanting to leave. That's cause for concern because that gets you, 2, 3 inches in an hour in a more populated area. That's not good. It's not horrific or something. I don't like that. That's rotating there. That's a little bit of a couplet starting to develop. Okay, we just did, when I say a couplet, I mean we could get a tornado warning if we're not careful. That's actually a little bit of gate to gate. It's not overwhelming here per se, but if we did have some weak spin-up tornado, it'd be rain wrapped. We'd probably see the debris pretty quick if it was touching down because we're so close on the radar. But they have now just upgraded this to a particularly dangerous situation here, folks. I have to send out the updates. That means it's now going off on the cell phones. I know used to they would send out all those flash flood warnings and emergency alerts, but it got to be too much here. We don't go in for a lot of the base ones, but I didn't like how things were setting up here. Just want to make sure we gave you the latest. And now, officially, it is going to be something when it's a considerable or catastrophic threat. They send them out on the phone. So this is just going off on your cell phone. So I may have some new viewers joining us here over the next few minutes. Is now a considerable situation, in terms of a life-threatening issue here. They're talking about at 9:17, Doppler radar indicated heavy rain across the warned area. Flash flooding is ongoing or expected to begin shortly. A life-threatening flash flooding with heavy rain producing this flash flooding. Valdosta, Lake Park, Hira, I-75 at exit 16, Moody Air Force Base, Bremerton, Dasher, Kinderloo, Valdosta Airport, I-75 at exit 22, I-75 at exit 11, Clyattville, Blue Springs, I-75 at exit 29, Twin Lakes, I-75 at exit 5. You kind of get the idea, and this is a life-threatening flash flooding threat. You got to remember, turn around, don't drown. It's a particularly dangerous situation here right now for Valdosta. Particularly dangerous situation as we're looking at this. So you got to be really mindful, as we've seen over 4 or maybe close to 4.5 inches on storm total here. It kind of varies based on the way the radar the software kind of estimates here. I mean, honestly, that could mean we're close to 5 inches in some rain gauges. Actually, people's homes and the like. So, I mean, some of those rain gauges, overflowing at 6 inches. So we might not be that far off of that even if this continues to fall at the rate it is here around Valdosta. So that's problematic. This is a dangerous situation here around Valdosta, very highly populated, and it's at night. And you haven't had, really a situation where it's been all that wet since Helene, and you have these vulnerabilities. Maybe that roof, part of it may have, got blown off in Helene even, and you have that blue tarp still on it. Now you're getting all that rain on the blue tarp here, and that's not, what you want to hear, obviously. I mean, there's a chance even, depending on how, everything is there. I mean, this is going to be a scenario where we have some vulnerabilities, that by way of this heavy rain, really, taken advantage of by it. And it's because of, what happened, damage in Hurricane Helene. So, again, let's just continue to watch this here. We're at 9:20 right now on this Wednesday. Let me go ahead and just I'll pop this up for right now. 9:20 p.m. on your Wednesday. Make it 9:21 now. Take it back off. But again, just want to let you know where we stand in terms of the current time. As we're looking at things, again, it's now been upgraded to a considerable flash flood damage threat. So we have, really give your base warnings. And those can be either observed and or radar indicated. This has been radar indicated the whole time, so we haven't had the reports that I've seen at least. But then we went to considerable. The last and the highest level is catastrophic flash flooding. We're not there yet. I don't know if we'll quite get there. I would hope not. But right now we have a considerable threat here. Let me see if I can get any reports, maybe through some sources here about what's going on. Let me see if we have any information coming on in right now, as we're looking at Valdosta and Lowndes County, see if we have any reports of, maybe water getting to homes. It's not not out of the realm of possibility here at this point. It's just things are escalating. There's a moderate, 3 out of 4 risk for flash flooding for some areas here. Moderate, 3 out of 4 risk for flash flooding, in some areas of our viewing circle. Some, folks are watching that rotation as well, even on social media. Yeah, we gotta watch that. That's, tighten it up. That's even a little bit of a notch there. We may get a tornado warning on this, folks. It's not quite, it's overwhelming here. And granted, if we do get one to drop, it would still be too late because you see the debris. That means it's already hit if that were to happen. But we would know a little bit quicker since we're right by the radar, and it wouldn't take that strong of a tornado even to get one. So this is some rotation. This is some legitimate rotation here now. You know, in South Central Georgia. I mean, it's been kind of going after for a few frames now. So, I mean, you saw a little bit earlier that wasn't enough for a warning for sure, but then you started to get some of this. And it's tricky because some of these pixels, they're not really bright. So that, you know, makes you think if it were to be a tornado, it'd probably be pretty weak. It'd probably be pretty weak of a tornado, you know, like any F0, you know, 60, 70, 80 mile an hour winds, which is still, you know, bad, but it's not, you know, very high on our enhanced data scale, which let me go ahead and pull that up. While we're talking about that, I mean, really land spout would be 60, give or take. But point is, 65 to 85 is light damage generally, but still we had those vulnerabilities from Helene. 86 to 110, that's moderate damage there. And then 111 to 135 is, you know, something very significant, especially for our area. So no tornado warning right now. You know, it's on, you know, if I was issuing here, I'd be right on the fence about it. I mean, this frame, I mean, it's just one that's, you know, really a tough call. I think I would have thought about issuing it maybe on like a frame like that, but then it kind of fades a little, and then it's still maybe not quite enough to meet the criteria for a tornado warning, but it's close. So, again, we're going to continue to watch things here in the Weather Center. Just try to give you guys the very latest on exactly what's going on. Let me just continue to watch all of this here. In the Weather Center. Again, as I give you the latest information here, you'll see Raphael, you know, getting us further down our hurricane list. Sarah, Tony, Valerie, and William, the last four before. I don't think we'll go, you know, maybe through all these. If we do, we would go to an alternative list if we had to get past William there on the list. But we could still have some more names, you know, past Raphael. That's a distinct possibility. So, again, let's just continue to watch this. Continue to monitor this. And then check on the rainfall. I mean, that's very significant rain. I do think the rates, you know, maybe right in town, you know, points are not quite as high, and other points are still very significant. So, let me see if there's any reports here. Let me see if there's any reports on anything. I mean, I don't see any flood reports right now. But we're just continuing to give you the latest. Just a one-man band here. But it's all about trying to protect you, your friends, and your family. Trying to keep you guys safe out there. I know, let's just do a flashback though, and I know it's tough sometimes but to talk about. But of course, Helene, this is what the radar looked like at the end of September there, and just went right through that Austin, caused devastation. So, you know, just something that we'll never forget. But we gotta, you know, be careful here because this is gonna, you know, potentially exploit some vulnerabilities because of what happened with Helene. You know, this, you know, can be making that situation, that aftermath, in a very hyper-local level, on a very hyper-local level, a little bit worse. So, again, you watch that rotation there. We're going to watch that. I mean, it's not overwhelming, but it's definitely there, and it's worth watching. But the flood threat's the biggest concern still at this point, I would say. Let me go ahead and I'm going to jump back. I know we're always, by the way, just, you know, if you kind of knew, we haven't had too much lately, but we're always on for, you know, all counties for 5 years now. For any tornado warning storm, we've been on for 5 years. We don't have that yet, but this flash flood warning was enough cause for concern, and now it's a considerable one, makes things, even more concerning. It's a nighttime flood situation that, is, taking place here, it would seem, where the ground just can't, and the roads, there's just too much water now falling too quickly to drain properly, and it's going to cause, issues. Cars can get stranded on the roads here because of what's going on. So, it can be a matter, in isolated cases, it could be a matter of life and death. I mean, maybe there's situations where, things are just, the water's just not going down, and it's just building on up. As urban areas, you have more concrete around. I mean, we just had a hurricane, a little over a month ago that came on through in these areas, and it's not great if the water's not able to go down, and that can make things worse in some cases, and then cars get stuck. Folks try to get out, and then even the 6 inches of flowing water could knock you down, and that could, in theory, lead, in the worst case, which we hope does not happen in our area, but in the worst case, that can lead you to drown. I know we've had even flood fatalities going back to Missouri earlier on in the week, so you just got to keep that in mind here as well. Let me just do something. I don't think it's doing this, but I'm just going to check our debris tracker here because we have that rotation, that very weak rotation here with this. Yeah, I don't really see any debris, and we're really close here, within 1,000 feet. So if it touched down even just for a moment, you'd think you'd get a debris signature with this. So that's good, at least, that we're not seeing that. I mean, let me just kind of back this up so it kind of went, kind of this direction. So let me just kind of look down there in case we got a pixel for just a, moment here. I didn't really see anything, so that's good. That's very good, but we still got to be careful here as we're looking at this here in South Georgia. So let me see if I can find some maybe rain gauges here. Bear with me. I'm going to see if I can get some numbers. Let me see what the airports had there. Give me just a second. I'm going to check our rainfall. Well, it's only reporting the 6-hour total earlier, which is a ½ inch. That's not really going to help us too much. Let me check Moody Air Force Base. Okay, that's not going to help us that much, but again, just continuing to watch. This could end up, becoming considerable up here. Granted, it's not quite as densely populated up here, but if this rain really can stay together, it could be, still problematic, and we'll have to, alert you of that danger if that does come into play. Again, really concerned about Valdosta right now because this is not, what you want to see there in Lowndes County. Not what you want to see right now in toward Lowndes County here at this moment in time. So we're just continuing to give you the very latest here. Continuing to track up for everybody here. It's all about protecting you, your friends, and your families. I know Brooks County's in this too, but really it's been more about Lowndes County here tonight. Nothing like Helene, but still, you don't need this. And you're getting about hit as hard as anybody in our area. Don't think we've had a tornado touch town, which is great. We haven't had any tornado warnings, we've had thunderstorm warnings. Had some advisories, and now the flash flood warnings, which we're on for, but, we haven't had a tornado touch down, I don't think, even though we've had some weak rotation. I mean, there were a couple frames here that were, you could say that frame there, you could say, well, maybe you need a tornado warning. It's not overwhelming, though. There were a couple others in there, maybe, but I know we had a tornado going back, several years now. That was very significant in Valdosta that folks really weren't foreseeing as a possibility. There was no observed cloudy ground lighting. I think it was an EF2 tornado, I believe. Let me check that year. I want to say maybe 2015. It was, pretty significant up there. I think it was in the month of December, so we're not too, far off of that. Granted, different meteorological patterns here, can result in different things, but let me see here. Okay, I think it was actually a 2014. Yeah, okay. Just kind of glancing here. That might make a little more sense. Yeah, it was really hard to get a warrant out on that. That's been almost 10 years. That was very significant EF too, and it was really not something folks were foreseeing. I mean, this pattern not officially forecasted, but still, always got to be careful here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking here. Haven't seen anything to indicate that something's actually happened, though. With that, unlike the flash flooding, which I, would think is happening in some of these communities. Let's look down here. Just don't see any rotation there. Got good news, but continuing to watch. Continuing to give you the latest. Again, trying to keep you guys up to date here with the overall meteorological pattern. Visibility is pretty low at the Valdosta airport, only a mile and a half it looks like right now. Barometric pressure at 1,017 millibars. I mean, granted, you compare that to Key West, though, they're closer to our, cyclone, which are getting direct impacts. And I'll switch over to something. So their pressure, you don't see it on the screen, but you see the temperature at 80. But I can look at some stuff here. The pressure's at 1,012 millibars, so it's not that much lower, really. But they're in a situation where, let me see if I can put the wind arrow on at least, the gust. Yeah, I mean, they're getting some nasty gusts there, around 50 miles an hour around Key West right now. And the direct winds from our cyclone, and you can kind of see some of that there. Granted, this is going to be headed more off toward the west versus the north based on the current projections. There is a lot of uncertainty still, but, that's positive. That is headed, away from land at this point, at least. Again, continuing to watch, continuing to track. Trying to keep you safe here. Sticking with you for a while. It's just a one-man band, but we have that PDS per se. I don't know if they really use that terminology for this, but that's what it is. I mean, really, considerable flash flood threat. I mean, you have considerable tornado warnings, which are PDS, and then flash flood warning threats considerable. So we'll kind of interchange the wording here as we continue along. Again, that's showing 3+ inches in the last hour. Maybe even more than that, though, quite honestly. As we continue to give you the latest. Just trying to make sure you're staying safe. Seeing if we're getting any flash flood reports or anything. Not really seeing anything. This is your 12-hour rainfall. Some areas in northern parts, of it looks like Brooks County there. I mean, I'm sitting at some pretty high totals, around 5 inches or so, give or take. Southeastern Colquitt County. I mean, you have northern Coffee County there. There's been quite a bit. Some of these, maybe a little more rural areas, maybe not quite, as quick in terms of happening, but this has been significant of it, Austin. I mean, that stands out like a sore thumb, 1 hour rainfall. And I mean, that's the highest in the view by a pretty good margin. Those reds, those bright reds are over at least 3 inches in the hour, which I suspect actually is probably a little bit higher because it's underdoing it a bit. But then the dark reds, almost 3. These lighter blues, that's close to an inch and a quarter, give or take, in the last hour. See, a lot of the area, I mean, you're wondering maybe why I'm on in a lot of the area, because Tallahassee's not getting rain, Stark, Gainesville, Jacksonville not getting rain, Brunswick not getting rain right now. But we have the concern here along the south central Georgia I-75 corridor. We're really getting this to train on in and be problematic tonight. So that's why I'm having to stick with you for a little while. I hope not to have to be on too much longer. You know, as it's a situation where if this gets past Valdosta, the water should start to recede. You know, which would be good. Of course, we get, you know, more flash flood warnings. We'll at least post about them on Facebook and Twitter/X, and depending on the severity of the concern, we might pop back in as well. And of course, we get a tornado warning, we'll be on immediately through a thunderstorm warning. It'll be a situation that's based on the severity of concern. So, watching this here, you see around Lake Park. I'm just trying to give you the very latest here. Trying to keep you guys up to date. It's getting into ward parts of Eccles County right now. A little bit. So that's in the Jacksonville Weather Service jurisdiction area. So if we did start getting more training over there, then they'd have a decision to make whether they issue a flood warning or, you know, maybe a flash flood warning. I know they seemingly, sometimes they're a little, just a trend I've noticed, you know, maybe there's maybe not anything to it, but I've noticed just over the years, Tallahassee likes to issue more flash flood warnings, you know, a little bit, you know, quicker to pull those out. And Jacksonville would rather issue regular flood warnings. Flash flood, you know, generally would mean more rapid water rise. Flood would mean more of a longer period flood concern. The flash flood go off on where the radio is the regular flood don't. I know we have a graphic that pretty much breaks that all down. I might just go ahead and pull that up, actually. I haven't used it in too long. So let me go ahead and do that, because it might be kind of helpful for the viewers at home here. So let me go ahead and jump into that graphic here in my sources. I have to go through a few things. Since we're on the fly, if you can hear, I just have to go ahead and get everything on up. But again, just trying to keep you guys safe. Just trying to keep you guys safe here. Okay, here we go. This is the graphic I'm looking for. So let me go ahead and pull it on in here. What I mean by this, we've had, you know, I mean, it's a situation here where, you know, I know earlier on, you know, in the months before we really started to have the tropical accident, I mean, maybe after Debbie, but before Helene and Milton, you know, we were getting a bunch of flood warnings around the Jacksonville area, and that's why I had this put together, really, this differential here, you know, because we don't post about the regular flood warnings. We used to, but they can get issued pretty easy, and there's no real alerting mechanism for them. You know, unlike the flash flood warning, you know, that's something where it goes off in your weather radios, and you know, our system will tell us about it as well, you know, and the like. But so regular flood warnings, long-term flooding, flash flood, though, you know, rapidly worsening flooding is possible. And that's what we're dealing with right now. And higher potential to quickly bring danger to people and property through a rapid water rise, and in some cases upgraded to considerable catastrophic threat that triggers a phone alert and that sets off weather radios. There's more urgent concern here is what we're trying to say. There's more urgent concerns. That's kind of the storyline there right now. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking it, trying to keep you up to date. Let me go ahead and jump from this graphic back to the other view. You just have to be, you know, taking heed. I know the wind enhancement has gone down some. That's good. I know you have some different interactions that can take place sometimes, which can cause issues. And honestly, the heaviest rain is starting to really move away from a lot of I-75 in Lowndes County. And, you know, maybe not as heavy rates right in downtown Valdosta either now. You have some of those heavy rates there, Lake Park East, but again, just continuing to watch here. You know, the storm total now is really getting up there. I mean, that's showing, I don't know, this is this radar. I mean, it could be a little bit higher than this on the actual rain gauges, but it's over 5 inches there, and in 1 hour is even about 3 inches, give or take. Again, this can kind of vary a little bit. You know, one project will set a little higher than the other, and then they both probably are still underdoing it a bit in this type of setup. So that's something to keep in mind here. Again, just trying to keep you guys informed on what's going on. We'll have our formal update later tomorrow. If we need to break back in, we will. Obviously, any tornado warning will be coming on very quickly. If we get any tornado warning for any of our 62 counties here, We'll be on at once to keep you guys safe and informed. It's my commitment to you, your friends, and your family. And then, some thunderstorm warnings, flash flood warnings, we'll decide whether we need to go on for those or just post those. But otherwise, like tomorrow, another update. And we're also watching the wildfire situation around Los Angeles. There's been, some homes destroyed today because they could continue to be a danger next few days. Really today, tomorrow, Friday, because of red flag, conditions that are really, just, a particularly dangerous situation. So not good. I mean, I look at some of these storms, I just want to look at them real quick. Let me check the Tallahassee radar, make sure none of these are rotating. I don't think they would be. But since another area was starting to rotate on it a little, let me check Tallahassee's radar. You had that flash flood warning west of our area. I don't see much at all with this, really. And then let's just check this view here. I mean, that side of rotation a little bit more alive, too, so that's interesting, at least. And there's a little bit of wind enhancement up in northern Irwin, southern Ben Hill counties. I'll back this up to kind of see here. Sorry if I'm switching stuff too much on everybody because, when the stuff loads in like this, it's still trying to load it, but I'll give it a second as we continue along here. Continue along to give you guys the very latest, but I just want to make sure I don't have anything too crazy with the rotation right now before we were to leave you and with the coverage for now. I'm just trying to keep you up to date. Let me go ahead and look back at this. Still not wanting to load our frame. So let's try that one more time. I just want to see what the rotation was looking like aloft here. Because if you don't have the one radar, you might have to issue a warning based on that. I know I was looking at that around Houston the other night. The one radar was showing some white tight rotation, terminal radar not so much, and it was closer, so that's what I was thinking was probably happening. Yeah, that was just showing broad. Yeah, that was, tight at times, but this would be the one you would rely on here. And it was, it was something that was close. I don't really think anything touched down, but, right in there we had some little bit of couplet action trying to get going, so. Again, just continuing to track things here. Continuing to monitor them. I know, let's just look up to the north. Yeah, that's really weak rotation, northern Irwin. Very, very weak in Coffee County. That's more of just, the heavy rain accident at points, and that, that bit of rotation can develop in that pattern more than anything. Not indicating a tornado, potential with that. I mean, right now we're not seeing that down here either with the tornado potential. Again, maybe for a few frames here and there we had a small thread of something, I mean, it's probably close to getting in need of tornado warning, but didn't quite meet that criteria. So that's good. But we're going to continue to watch it. We're going to continue to track it. Continue to give you guys the latest information here. And so it's always important to keep you guys safe. Important to keep you guys safe. Again, we're at 9:46 right now is the time on this Wednesday, November 6, 2024. I know Veterans Day coming up on Monday. We'll have that forecast, for that day and more here coming up tomorrow night. As you guys are maybe tuning on on the different platforms. So let me just kind of give you a first hint at that, though. Maybe, small chance for some shower on Veterans. We had some last year, coming on through scattered and I mean, I haven't really looked at the models, but just to base meteorological data here, showing, maybe small 10, 20, 30% chances of rain. So that's kind of the storyline there. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking that, as we're trying to give you guys the very latest. Okay, we're getting some reports in now. So let me go ahead and go over these. before we wrap it up, let me switch back away from velocity here, which is, the wind mode of the radar, back to the current rain mode. We'll show rainfall estimates here from time to time. But okay, so at 9:32, a ham radio operator relayed a video report of water over roadways on the east side of Valdosta. So, that's a cause for concern there. As we're looking at things, so at 9:32, ham radio operator relayed a video report there of water over a roadway on the east side of Valdosta. So really 1 mile east-northeast, about where that icon is there, that bluish, tealish looking icon with the person there, and some, the simulation of that imagery is in floodwaters in theory. But again, just continuing to watch here. Continuing to give you the latest. The other icon indicating there almost 7 inches of rain. I'll kind of put the mouse on here. And ambient weather stations measure 6.82 inches of rain so far, 2 miles northeast of Bremerton. So yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. It's probably closer to half foot on the actual rain gauges, and we've gotten even, totals now. At least one of them that's exceeded a half foot of rain here around Valdosta. So that's pretty significant. We still have, dangers here that are impacting some different communities here and the like. So you got to keep that in mind here. Got to keep that in mind. I know we just got a new flash flood warning. There could be more later on, but we just got a new one issued in the last few moments as we look toward Lanier and Lowndes counties at 9:43. Doppler radar indicated heavy rain across the warned area. Flash flooding either ongoing or expected to begin shortly. Lanier and Eastern Lowndes County. So we're talking about Lakeland, Lake Park, Moody Air Force Base, Meigs, Naylor, Hansel, Stockton, Greenwood, Barrett's Courthouse, and Teeterville. Those communities here, we're watching that threat. So again, just continuing to track this. Just continuing to give you the latest. Turnaround, don't drown when encountering flooded roads. Most flood deaths occur in vehicles. Be especially cautious at night when it is hard to recognize the dangers of flash flooding, and the like. That's information being relayed by the Weather Service. It's safety tips. But again, 1 hour, that says, several, 3+ inches, Roy. Right around US 41. US 221 there, northeast Valdosta. As we look, this is so, that's a pretty widespread area, and even in that grayish color now. We're talking about US 41, that vicinity there. Even, as we get further down, you see I-75, of course. Some of those areas are on I-75 getting, a good bit of rain as well. So, that's probably the area that's gotten the most in terms of storm total at this point. Stands out like a sore thumb, really. Because I'll go to 12-hour. It doesn't stand out quite as much on our 12-hour mode. There's probably maybe even more. This is kind of interesting. I'll send this to you guys here, but it's very small sliver. This could happen tomorrow based on some of the modeling. But this one small sliver north of Panama City by a good ways. I'll measure it. That's probably 15 miles north of Panama City. It's picking up, 6-7 inches. Panama City's picking up really maybe a trace. That's how hit and miss this stuff can be. You've seen maybe more rain than in our area east of Augusta. That's pretty significant there in South Carolina. Calhoun, Lexington, Orangeburg, and Richland counties. That's, that area, that's maybe 10 inches of rain. So that's problematic for those folks. Some of the areas still recovering from Helene up there. So, that's cause for concern. But it's probably a little bit higher than this at this point. Once we get the next update, and probably get into some of those yellows on that for indicating higher rainfall estimates. But on the Raphael, this is loosely, influenced by that. It's not directly connected, but indirectly connected to Raphael, Hurricane Raphael, which just got the latest update in. I know because of the time change with the advisories, in here an hour earlier. So that can be helpful here. We're in standard time instead of daylight savings time now. But the center of Raphael is moving away from western Cuba, and we're talking about storm surge winds and rain should subside across Cuba tonight. Max sustained winds 105 miles an hour. The center about 135 miles west-southwest of Key West, Florida, 80 miles west-northwest of Havana, Cuba. A max sustained winds 105 miles an hour, so a Category 2 hurricane, but it was a Category 3 major hurricane earlier when it was hitting western Cuba. Land influencing, will be some weakening there. It's moving northwest at 13 miles an hour, but more of a more westerly, but not northerly turn expected here as we look ahead. As you can see by the track, the minimum central pressure is 969 millibars, 28.62 inches. And then I know hurricane warning as we're looking towards some of Cuba, but in tropical storm warning still for the lower middle Florida Keys from Key West to the west of the Channel 5 bridge and then dry Tortugas. So let's go ahead and see the radar again. I say indirectly, directly, connected downpours impact in Florida are really just in this area here right now. In parts of the Florida Keys, the heaviest being, they're just east of Key West, really, just west of Summerlin Key and the like. So, and that latest update on the track, I know there's a cone of concern that you can't say that in this mode and the live mode like this on this software, but, that's more, important this time around because there's so much uncertainty. And it kind of now, the forecast has it kind of diving south. Some of the models have had it making a loop. So don't, completely forget about this storm, but, it's not something that's, direct impacts, are unlikely here. Very unlikely in our area unless they come quite a bit later in the period if it does some loops, that take it in the next week. But we're getting the indirect impacts of the moisture today, so that's going to continue, as I said, with the model guidance, tomorrow as well. You can back up the video here. Either right now if you're watching on YouTube or after it goes off on the other platforms, and you'll be able to kind of see that, what we're expecting into tomorrow and the like. But this is the wind field forecast. You see, really, maybe, we're kind of just, right there on the edge of the Keys, getting in a tropical storm sustained, really, or tropical storm, gust, over, all the areas. But I have noted some, gust there in some isolated spots around Key West that have been, over 39 miles an hour. So this wind field is kind of, to depict that, but we have had some gusts there that have gotten, a little bit higher there. Let me see that on other mode. Bear with me. Again, looking at this, 47 mile an hour gust, Key West International Airport. You see the core of the storm though. You see that, that's, and the brighter colors indicate much higher winds, closer to the eye wall, but that's not, coming directly toward the U.S. That's good. As we continue to watch it. And you see some of that banding, how it's impacted the Keys here. Coming on through, burning maybe, a foot or two of storm surge. With the service saying 1 to 3 feet for Tortugas, 1 to 2 feet for the lower Florida Keys here. But again, just continuing to watch. That's not enough for a storm surge warning, thankfully. But rainfall totals of 1 to 3 inches expected for the lower and middle Florida Keys. As we look there, as we track that. I know, watch out for rip currents and the like. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking them. Just got to be kind of careful with that. I know there's a rip current statement for like Apalachicola. And that's in play, through late Sunday even. So, got to be careful about that. That's very long fuse, but with this being in the Gulf like that, that can turn deadly. Definitely can turn deadly. We have an eastern, coast rip current threat as well. At least until 4 a.m. tomorrow, but, that's the time the advisory goes into play, and you expect that to, be extended at this point, I would think. But rip currents, can even, really sweep the best swimmers away from the shore in the deeper water. Swim their lifeguard if caught in a rip current, relax and float, and you don't swim against the current. If unable, you want to swim in a direction there, following the shore line. If unable to escape, face the shore and call or wave for help there. So important stuff to keep in mind with that as we continue to give you the latest here. Let me go back to the radar north, toward our area. This is Tallahassee's view. Looks like I might be getting a little bit of action to fill in here over the last little bit. East of Tallahassee. I mean, some of that's just coming off the water, but some of that's kind of headed further back toward the west, even toward Tallahassee, maybe, depending on the exact trajectory here. Yeah, you can kind of see that what I'm talking about there as I loop that. But then more of this up, in south central Georgia. That's where the cause for concern's really been here tonight. 3 flash flood warning polygons. Gusty wind's about 40, but not really seeing much of any rotation right now. The heaviest rains are right outside of Valdosta now. But, Statenville, some of those areas. I mean, Lake Park was hit hard too. East side of town getting some heavy rain right now, but it's not, as over, longer duration or as large of an area maybe as it was earlier on. You see some more going to the north. The one thing to watch out for maybe to be over next little bit is some of this heavy rain going north. That could end up, causing this flash flood warning to become a considerable threat. And, at least we'll have to relay that to you at least on social media, if not cut back in at that point. As we have some pretty heavy rain around Nashville, moderate downpour during Adele, and that could lead to some issues. It's a little less populated up there, maybe a little less concrete, and if the rates are a little less, maybe we don't get that upgraded to considerable, which is life-threatening flash flooding. But still, flash flood warning continues at 3 a.m. for Ben Hill, Berrien, Cook, Arwen, and Tip counties. Ocilla, Tipton, Nashville, Fitzgerald, Adele, Sparks, Enigma, Omega, Ray City, Lennox, Tita. You kind of get the idea there. Brookfield. And this warning continues to 11:30 for the light threatening, considerable damage from flooding danger. And then this one here's a base warning for Lanier and Eastern Lowndes until 1:45. That, in theory, that could get upgraded to considerable, depending on how this kind of trains in. If it really gets into Lakeland, sits over them. And then if this really starts to push even further than Jackson, we might have to issue some alerts. They could just do flood warnings, but they might have to do flash flood warnings as well, So we're now at 10 o'clock, so I think I'm going to wrap it up for the time being. Because, it's not a tornado situation where we just get minute-by-minute updates, but we have to really be with you, when things can change second by second. But we've given you the information you need. If we get more alerts, we'll be sure to pass them along, whether it's to come on or just post about them if it's for flooding. So the thunderstorm warnings, we haven't had any of those, the thunderstorm warnings. But if we get those, the options there, one or the other, social media post or really coming on the air. Tornado warning, though, it's a mandatory live stream. So that's kind of storyline there. I know flash flood warnings in those dark green boxes, move to higher ground, if necessary. Turn around, don't drown, as that's necessary if you're going into a road, that looks flooded, but you can't really tell. Well, it's better to be safe than sorry, as this 6 inches of water, let's say you get, caught in it, your car gets stalled out and you get out. Even the 6 inches of water could knock you down, leading you to be, swept away here at night, especially in flash flooding danger. So very important to take heed of the information here that I've been laying out for you guys, as we have 3 flash flood warnings about Valdosta, Tipton, Adele, all under this, Lakeland and Georgia as well. I mean, this is Valdosta. There's a warning that includes Lakeland. This one, Adele, Nashville, even Ocilla there, Tipton, and Fitzgerald. So it's a nasty night in some spots of our area. Other areas are quiet. I mean, it's just kind of varies. I mean, it really varies depending on where you're at. I mean, it's just kind of tricky. We had a rocket launch you could see here a couple nights ago. And, other areas, well, there was some rain around. So it kind of varies. You saw that convection there on satellite in South Florida. But again, let me see if there are any questions or comments that I need to get to here. I appreciate everybody tuning in on all the platforms. Let me just see if there's anything new. I see Steve was watching there, and appreciate you watching. And let me go ahead and Just remind you guys of all the different platforms I'm on here. I'll do that. There you go. Facebook, Twitter, /X, YouTube, Twitch, and the website. I'm checking the Paradise information real quick. I have some outages in California, wildfire threats, and I mean, you know, you have some areas with the wind so high, maybe turning the power off even because of that concern, possibly. I'm not 100% sure, but this is the theory. As Paradise.us reports over 40,000 customers in the dark. In California, in Florida, 1,724 customers in the dark, but none in Monroe County where the keys are. That's good. And then as we look toward Georgia, we have 3,668 customers in the dark, and there are a few in our area, actually, that are noted. Not many, but a few. Lowndes County, 1,216 customers without electricity. Brooks County, 206. Berrien, 75. Tift County, 151. And Worth County, 324. So that's kind of the information there. That'll do it for the time being. Stay safe out there. You know, don't, in those areas that have the flash flood warnings, don't get out on the road unless you have to here in this set of circumstances. So very important to take heed here. I'll be back again if it's necessary. Otherwise, have a great night. Stay safe. And we'll have more information later tomorrow if something isn't